So, movies are filled with difficult conversation scenes, and today I'm going to react raw to one of them. So, here we go. I don't know what I'm going to see here, but we're going to get right into it.
To do today is watch and listen. And when I talk about a strategy packet, you hand them one of those.
Okay, so it's Up in the Air. This is a movie that I saw many, many years ago. I think it maybe even won an Academy Award, but I don't remember much from it.
To do today is watch and listen. And when I talk about a strategy packet, you hand them one of those.
Sounds great.
So although I wish I were here with better news, the fact is that you and I are sitting here today because this will be your last week of employment at this company.
Why me?
What am I supposed to do now?
Am I supposed to feel better that I'm not the only one losing my job?
This is ridiculous. I have been a fine employee for over 10 years, and this is the way you treat me.
How you sleep at night, man? Huh?
Okay, this is obviously a scene of a series of difficult conversations on steroids, back to back to back. We don't actually know what George Clooney is saying here, and it's hard to imagine that if you're on the receiving end of this conversation, you're gonna be happy. But somehow I feel like the watch and learn that he said at the beginning is more like a watch and learn what not to do.
How's your family? They sleeping well at night? Electricity still on? Heat still on? Refrigerator full of food? Gas tank full of gas? Going Chuck E. Cheese this weekend or something? Not me. No, my kids, we're not gonna do anything.
What do you suggest I tell them?
Perhaps you're underestimating the positive effect that your career transition can have on your children.
The positive effect. Make about 90 grand a year now. Unemployment is what, 250 bucks a week? Is that one of your positive effects? Well, we'll get to be cozier because I'm not gonna be able to pay my mortgage on my house, so maybe we can move into a nice fucking one-bedroom apartment somewhere. And I guess without benefits, I'll be able to hold my daughter as she, suffers from her asthma that I won't be able to afford the medication for.
Well, tests have shown that children under moderate trauma have a tendency to apply themselves academically as a method of coping.
Go fuck yourself. That's what my kids will think.
Your children's admiration is important to you?
Yeah.
So let's just pause here because we've seen two really different ways of responding to a combination of both an emotional plea or argument, right? Showing the kids and what am I supposed to do, but also to anger, right? And we know that in negotiations, people will make emotional pleas and they will also use anger. Anna Kendrick's character uses facts as a response. Well, research says that children will respond by becoming better academically. And what George Clooney's character does is a version of active listening. Now, I want to be clear, and we'll talk about this later. We don't really know much of what George Clooney is doing, but there's a lot of things that definitely feel off here. But this active listening move that he does right here, just really reflecting back what he heard this employee say, is a very skillful way to deal with strong emotion and to deal with anger.
It was.
Well, I doubt they ever admired you, Bob.
Hey, asshole, aren't you supposed to be consoling me?
And then it goes badly. This second piece is definitely something not to do.
I'm not a shrink, Bob. I'm a wake-up call. You know why kids love athletes?
I don't know, because they screw lingerie models.
No, that's why we love athletes. Kids love athletes because they follow their dreams.
Well, I can't dunk.
No, but you can cook.
What are you talking about?
Your resume says that you minored in French culinary arts. Most students, they're working the fryer at KFC, but you bust tables at Il Picatore to support yourself. And then you get out of college, and you come and you work here. How much did they first pay you to give up on your dreams?
27 grand a year.
And when were you going to stop and come back and do what makes you happy?
Good question.
I see guys who work at the same company for their entire lives, guys exactly like you. They clock in, they clock out, and they never have a moment of happiness. You have an opportunity here, Bob. This is a rebirth. Now, if not for you, do it for your children.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack here in both the worked well and the do differently department. Let me just start with the worked well. So I mentioned this active listening move that George Clooney does. That's really well. Then he kind of says, well, your kids don't admire you. This is most certainly a do differently. Now, obviously in the movie, right, this is, I think done for some dramatic impact. But actually what Clooney does next has a bit of worked well and a bit of do differently in it. So the worked well is he takes this idea of being admired by your kid. So what he's done is he's learned this important interest of this employee. And then he wants to use this as a motivating factor, right? And remember, in negotiation, we're always trying to influence others' behavior. And he wants to use this to motivate the employee to see this moment of firing as actually something that is productive. And so the way he does that, right, is he connects being admired by your children to what is it that children tend to admire? Well, they tend to admire people who follow their dreams. And so if you want your children to admire you, teach them something by following your dreams. I think this is really artful and really skillful. Now, where's the bit of do differently? George Clooney says, well, you're a good cook. He's using this little piece of information on a CV that this employee years ago minored in culinary arts and making an assumption that this was the dream of this person. Now, turns out, again, we're in a movie. That is correct. What I might coach him to do ever so slightly differently, right, is first, no need to insult this employee. Instead, why not say, so what kinds of things do your kids admire? I could see that it's important for you to be respected by them. Let the employee say, well, they admire people who follow their dreams. You don't need to make the insult. And then say, well, I'm kind of curious, what were your dreams when you first started working here or first went to the workforce? It may well be that George Clooney has a hunch he's going to say becoming a chef. But from a negotiation perspective, asking the question allows the person to actually choose to share what the answer is. And for all we know, he was minored in culinary arts because he liked to cook, but his real dream was to be an executive on Wall Street, or his real dream was to, I don't know, dig ditches. We don't know what it is. So making the assumption that it's cooking based on a single line in a CV might be highly risky. Kudos, by the way, to Clooney for at least doing some research. But from a negotiation perspective, better to ask the question, let that person identify what their interests are, and then continue to help that person think about how this firing can be used as a way to pursue what the dream is, pursue your interests. So lots of worked wells and some do differently in that moment. Let me take a step back to just make a few more observations about this scene. I think the biggest concern that I have really relates to the kind of setup of these meetings. When you're going to be firing someone, and clearly there's a lot of layoffs going on at this company, it's not pleasant for anybody. Of course, the supervisors here, or the bosses here, the people letting go, in this case, George and Anna, want to look professional and competent. There's a way in which the way they are dressed, however, actually is quite distancing. It's putting unnecessary distance between the two. I also think having that desk separating the employee and the managers sets up an unnecessary power differential. So if I were coaching them, I might suggest professional but somewhat more informal dress. I might suggest a different physical setup. And then I would continue to coach Clooney to do the active listening moves, to ask about the other person's interests, to do some empathy. As for Anna Kendrick, I think we'd probably say keep facts and figures to the side. So thanks for watching this Reacts video. Here's another one from Better Call Saul where there's a lot of negotiation lessons, so keep watching. Here's that video, but you are definitely going to want to close your eyes for the first 10 seconds.